when we're not flying, I just describe it as summer camp for adults. It's a good time.
Welcome to 10-Minute Travels. With me, as always, is Shane Patrick.
And with me, as always, is Phil Freeman. Tonight we're going to be talking with Ryan Skorecki, helicopter pilot flown all over the world. If you want to learn more about him or other things we talk about at 10 Minute Travels, check us out at 10minutetravels.com.
Let's get right to it, shall we? The burning question we blew by Antarctica, talking about that, but I wondered if you could kind of describe what it's like to fly, what you've seen in Antarctica, and what it's like there, to work there and to see places that literally nobody gets to see.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique opportunity. And just being down there is really fun. Like the social scene, when we're not flying, I just describe it as summer camp for adults. It's a good time. And, for the most part, it's basically 1,000 people. And for the most part, it's like a very kind of liberal crowd. And everyone, even the people that have like total crap jobs, they're just pumped to be down there. Even though a lot of them never leave the island. We're on like a little island. And it doesn't feel like an island because it's surrounded for the most part with sea ice. So you don't really feel like you're on an island. By later in the season, right in front of the base is open water that the sea ice melts out and the sea ice blows out. And then you do have open water right in front of the base. But as you go around the corner, it's thick ice shelf again. But, so yeah, you got a bunch of people that never leave that island, for the better part of 5 months, and they're still pumped.
What's the name of the base?
McMurdo. We got McMurdo. It's on Ross Island, and then there's a peninsula that sticks out called Hut Point Peninsula, and so at the tip of that is where we are. And there's McMurdo Station, and then a mile and a half. There's a little bit of a hill. You go over that hill, and then there's a Kiwi base called Scott Base. Scott Base, it's something like, I think it's less than 100 people.
I heard they dress up in women's clothing every Thursday or something.
Well, there's a skirt party. It happens once a year. There's a big skirt party. It's good. Yeah, there's all kinds of great events like that. And
what have you seen, like wildlife or just natural beauty that you'll never forget?
Yeah, there's awesome spots down. Like I had this vision of it that it was going to be just this frozen ice wasteland, but there's plenty of that. But there's also incredibly tall mountains. Like right behind us is Mount Erebus, like the southernmost active volcano in the world, and it's pushing 13,000 feet. And then across the sea ice, like you're staring at the Royal Society Range and those like Mount Lister, it's same height, 13 to 14,000 feet. And then kind of like just adjacent to those mountains is where most of the science happens. This area called the Dry Valleys, and it's just so windy and so dry there that snow falls, but it sublimates away. They'll get a snowstorm that comes in the morning. Like let's say it snows at night, and the whole time we're there is actually no night, but there's still night hours, but it's not dark. But we'll like it might snow at night, in the morning, fly out there, and there'll be snow on the ground, and then like within an hour or two, it's all gone. It just sublimates away because it's just the air's so dry. But that's why there's so much science happens there, is because the rock's all exposed. So probably like 75% of our flying is there in the dry valleys. And then there's field camps sprinkled around there that are seasonal, permanent. So like the structures are there right now. They're just winterized. And then we go out right when we get there. When the first things we do is take the carpenter crews out there, and they'll pull all the boards off the windows and de-winterize the facilities. And then we'll take the scientists out there, and then they'll use those facilities to kind of like branch out. So they'll set up remote field camps that don't have all those amenities. They'll be in tents and stuff. But we'll like use those remote sites. We use the field camps kind of like as a hub to launch them out even further. And we have a refueling facility.
So will you spend the night out at one of those camps?
No, that's only as a backup. I got stuck out one night and spent the night at where we have that refueling facility, and then we've had some other pilots.
So every helicopter pilot always carries their whoopee with them, right?
Yep.
So that they can snuggle up and feel at home.
Yeah, we have the program's really good about the survival, like the requirements they have for survival bags and the procedures that are in place. It's all like, it's really well done. But so we each have, there's a survival bag in each machine for crew members, and then we also have our additional bag of so they call it ECW, extreme cold weather, but an ECW bag, and that's in addition to the survival bag that's already there. And so inside that bag, I've got even more warm stuff, if I get stuck out somewhere. And then the program provides these larger survival bags that it's everything that two people would need to survive.
It's just to pull a cord. It's inflatable. It has a hot tub, stereo system, all you can eat bar.
Yeah, so I wish, but it's got food, dehydrated food, of course, but everything two people would need to survive for 5 days. So if for every two passengers you have one of those bags. Yes, the program does a good job about making sure you have what you need if you were to get stuck somewhere. We're also really conservative, so it's rare that we get stuck somewhere, but sometimes we do. We've had people stuck in field camps, and only once that I know of, we actually had, or actually twice that I know of, the company that I work for had pilots stuck out somewhere, like not at a camp, just like stuck for a couple days,
And what would be the cause of that?
The weather.
Just weather.
Yeah.
And what's one of the pinnacle, animal encounter you've had, or just a wildlife that you've seen in Antarctica that you'll never forget?
Yeah, I mean, we see lots and lots of penguins and seals. The seals, to be honest, are kind of boring. They just don't do much. They just lay there. We just typically refer to them as slugs. They just sit there. The penguins are kind of funny, like watching them walk around, and they get curious. So we got Adelie penguins and emperor penguins. The Adelies are these much smaller, and they're kind of like, not like jerks, but they're just annoying. They just constantly squawking, and they're funny looking, but annoying. And then the emperors, they're kind of like these cool stoic. They're much larger, and they just kind of stand there. Sometimes they're curious and they'll walk over to you, but they could care less. Like when you come in and land, they'll just stand right there. Whereas the Adelies, they'll run away because they don't like the noise. Although I have had it happen before where I shut down with two guys, and I see from the horizon this Adelie running, and he's just comes right up to us, stands in front of the helicopter, and then we had to move, and so we moved about maybe a mile or two away and shut down, and then I see that thing, and he comes running all the way back over to us again. It's just following us around. It's interesting. But the coolest animals I think we see are the whales. There's minke whales and orcas, and the orcas are cool. The sounds they make, we've done some good filming projects. We had one really good one the year before, or 2 years ago now, I guess, and with the Disney crew, and they were filming the whales. So that was cool. You'd spend all evening, multiple evenings in a row, but you'd spend all night with them. So you'd go out and try and find cracks that are maybe 20 or 30 feet wide. So basically small, so that the whales they have to swim in front of you. And so you'd fly around until you saw some, and you see which way they're going, and then you get ahead of them, and then land and shut down, and then they set up all their cameras and everything, and then
they have to come up.
Yep. And then we just sit there and wait, and then here they come, and then the whales just come right by, and then sometimes they get real curious. And there was one evening where these whales were just so curious about the crew had this big camera that was like under the water. I can show you. I have video on my phone of it. I can show you, but. And the whales were just checking out. They thought for whatever reason, they were curious about the camera. And so they're like as close as me and you, like we're standing right there, and the whales are right there, and they're just kind of like not balancing, what would the term be?
Treading water?
Floating almost upright, like right next to the camera, just checking it out for a while. It was cool. But so the whales are the kind of the coolest things we see. So, and they do that. Sometimes, you'll be flying by and they'll be curious what the noise is, and so they'll do this, call it spy hopping, where the whale just kind of shoots straight up as high as it can out of the water to get a good look, So you see the thing come up out of the water sideways, and you can see its eye, and it's looking right at you as it does that. Sometimes, they'll swim by doing the porpoising thing, and then they'll disappear and then come up right in front of you doing that same thing, the spy hopping, to try and check you out. That's kind of cool. And then the only other animals I guess we see are birds. There's some, the most common ones are the skuas, and the skuas are jerks. Those birds are total jerks. They just decimate, baby penguins, and they've unfortunately learned down there, like in the galley, like the cafeteria, you have these blue trays, and those birds know if you carry a blue tray, they know that there's food on it, and they're smart. Like they'll hang out, and it's pretty funny. I'm sure if you Google it on YouTube, you can find footage of it happening. I definitely have seen it before, and it's happened to me. But if you walk out of that building with a tray, you got to be real careful, because the birds will, they hang out right above the door, and as you walk away, they will dive bomb you to try and get you to drop it. And I did.
It works.
Oh yeah, it works. And then you're not allowed to do anything to them. You're not allowed to, even though you're super pissed. I remember when it got me, it was my first season, and it was Thanksgiving. I was so proud of myself. I had a huge tray full of food, and the Thanksgiving spread, and I walk out of the thing in the skua. Typically someone's near you and they might be like, hey, watch out. But by the time that happens, it's too late. All of a sudden this massive thing is right behind you. Like, shit, drop the tray, super pissed. But technically you can't, you want to kick the thing, but you can't. It's against the treaty. You're not allowed to disrupt or disturb the wildlife. But, trying to think other good wildlife stories. There's some interesting stuff that happens with the seals and penguins too. They, for some reason, sometimes they get confused and they'll wander up the valleys. So it's real common. You'll find these, like, they call them mummified seals, but it's more like they're freeze dried than mummified. Like mummified would be, wrapped in bandages and embalming fluid and stuff. But,
right.
But these things, the seals, and no one knows why they do it, but they crawl miles and miles up the valleys and die. So it'd be like the equivalent of a whale beaching itself. But and the penguins walk up and do the same thing. They walk up the valley and then die. There was one that did it like at one of the camps a couple of years ago. Yeah, this penguin just walked up and then laid down just right outside the camp and just wouldn't move and then died. But so there's all these old seals all over the place. There's all these crazy theories where people say, it's from the Navy days. The Navy was messing with us. They picked up these seals and then plopped them there to mess with us. But, there's just too many of them sprinkled around for that to be true. But,
also, what would the Navy gain by that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Not a super compelling defense strategy.
No. But, that's about it. There's no bears or anything like that down there. Polar bears are all up here.
That was Ryan Skorecki, helicopter pilot extraordinaire. If you want to learn more about him or anything else we talked about at 10 Minute Travels, check us out at 10minutetravels.com.
And we want to remind you to make sure that your sense of humor matches your sense of adventure.
And please like, subscribe, and share this podcast on all the platforms.